All right, folks. We're going to go ahead and get started. To order then our House Bill 3610 meeting. It is September 5th at 4 o'clock. Adam, can I get you to do a roll call for me, please?
Of course. Chief Barrett. Vaughn Berry. Rob Corbett.
Here.
Annalise Dolph. She said she's gonna be late. Jamie Floyd.
Here.
Dr. Jean.
Present.
Todd Jeter.
Here.
John Colmer. Sarah Lochner.
Here.
Jana McCamey.
Here.
Director Prinz.
Here.
Marcus Reed.
Here.
Jason Renault.
I'm here.
Danelle Romaine.
Here.
Solera Salazar.
Here.
Aaron Sarnoff Wood.
Here.
Quorum is present.
Thank you, folks. Do we have any other legislators online?
Doesn't look like it. Not yet.
Perfect, thank you. Well, folks, thank you so much for coming back this day. I will tell you that I personally have not had 2 minutes to look at the draft report, as you probably got it in your email late last evening. So I have not had a moment to look at it. We are less than 48 hours out from one of the biggest events in my real life job that pays the bills. So I have not had an opportunity to go through it in its entirety, but I do know obviously it contains a lot of information. Many of the things that we've looked over throughout the last several months, and obviously the recommendations that you all have made over the last couple of months, and the detailed pieces that you have. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to sort of look through it if you had any immediate questions. And I mean, again, I'll ask that question. Has anybody had an opportunity to look through it at all? Aaron, anybody else? Who has their hand raised? Solara.
Yeah, I looked through it. I read, bits and pieces. I made sure to read Jason and I's segment on Art Week. So I had one small edit that we could go over now or whenever the time is appropriate.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else have, I see 2 hands raised. Danelle.
I was just going to ask a process question about, should we figure out a process for providing feedback, or do you want to do it on this meeting, or is that something we should send to Rosie, or what would you like to do there?
So what I would like to do is make sure that people don't have anything other than if there's technical issues or that type of thing, we can certainly send those into staff and have them go over them and deal with that kind of thing. In terms of overall process, what I would just like to be clear about at this point in time is that we can deal with technical issues, just having staff fix any kind of technical issues. What I'd like to talk about is where we go from here, just beyond any other thing. If there are other questions that are not technical stuff, we can have that conversation. And I saw several hands up, but now I can't see them because I'm on my iPad, so I can't. Okay, I can see Jason.
I think you got Jason and Rob, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, excuse me.
Thank you. Jason.
Yeah, I was able to read the executive summary and the lack of recommendations. I think this is quite an unfinished document, and needs far more than technical fixes. The summary doesn't really say what this task force did and didn't do. It kind of gives the history and some housekeeping, but it needs a heavy rewrite.
Can you be a little bit more specific about what you mean?
I think it would be more specific would be to rewrite it. And I'd be glad to do that, but I don't think I'm the staff person.
Okay. You said a lack of recommendations. Recommendations are there. They were submitted.
No, the individual recommendations, but there isn't a recommendation from the task force. If there isn't one, we should say that we were not able to come to a recommendation.
Rob.
I do appreciate the chairman acknowledging that we just got this, and I did not really have a lot of time to look it over. I think I spent about 45 seconds looking it over as I pulled it up in preparation for the meeting. I do note that it says in the middle of page 4 that the committee did not make any recommendations. What I like about what we have here is we actually have a report. And so it's something tangible that we can put our hands on, and we can shape it from here. I too think it's a work in progress. I think I envision what we've done over the last several meetings is we've gathered a lot of information, and we've talked a lot about what it is that the bill calls us to do. And we've talked a lot about taxes. And so I think that, and we, at the last meeting, we spent, well, I guess it wasn't the last meeting, the meeting before, we actually drilled down into one of the recommendations. And I envisioned moving forward that we would have more robust conversations about some of the elements that were in the bill. Some of the specific recommendations that some of the members of the committee brought forward to see if there were policy recommendations that we might actually be able to agree on. And that at some point there might be, during those robust conversations, there actually might be some consensus or some sense of consensus that someone might actually feel like we could make a motion on, and ultimately could have some policy recommendations that the committee could bring forward. But again, I want to emphasize what I like about what I'm looking at here in this report is that it's actually the framework for a document that we could that might one day represent the culmination of the work that we've been doing. But as the previous speaker suggests, it's a long ways away from finished. I would agree with that.
Yeah, Tom Jean, OHA. Yeah, I would agree with parts of the previous two comments. I think it's a good framework. It's a good start. I haven't read it all yet, of course, but I think it's a good framework. I think we need a little more clarity as to what our process was, and maybe we don't have that in here yet because we're still figuring that out. But I think if we do not take a vote or have any consensus recommendations where we have common ground, then the report needs to specify that very clearly, what the process was and what some of the individual recommendations were. And if it's something like a Supreme Court decision where we have one opinion and like a dissenting opinion, I think that would be fine too. Maybe I'd rather us have a consensus, but I think we need more than just the individual recommendations. We need kind of to consolidate it into clear, 2 or 3 clear groups of recommendations as opposed to the individual.
Aaron.
Thank you. Yeah, I read the document in its entirety this morning, and I thought it was a rather concise and thorough culmination of I can only imagine the challenge, and hats off to Rosie for trying to get all of us squirrely task force members all in one document. It seemed to touch on all the major topics that we discussed, And frankly, again, I disagree. I don't know that we're going to find the consensus that the task force is previous commenters are looking to achieve. And this, I think, does a sufficient job of indicating everybody's viewpoints as best as we're going to get.
Thank you. So I might note that in reading over the actual bill again yesterday, I can't remember what section it is off the top of my head. But there is a small section in the bill that says, oh, there it is. It says, it's down there somewhere. Yes. Where is it?
12, okay.
There's somewhere. So it's 12. Yes. Yeah. The task force shall submit a report in the manner provided by ORS, whatever, and may include recommendations for legislation to the interim committees on the Legislative Assembly related to health no later than September 15th. And that's, of course, the one that we're extending that deadline. But the word is may. And it's a struggle. What I don't want you all to do at this point in time is I don't want us to struggle. I want us to recognize that the issue that we're talking about right here and now is literally thousands and thousands of years old. And it's something that as societies and cities and states and countries, we've fought over for millennia, it seems like. The good and the bad and the right or the wrong. And it's something that we are all going to see differently all the time. And, people see it very, very differently. And what I would prefer at this point in time is to have the ability for the legislature to take a look at the information that we have divined from all of what we've looked at and to be able to make their decisions. Because they are, in fact, recommendations that were made, right? There's a lot of recommendations there. They may not be perfect, but what I also want to have happen is for everyone on this task force to walk away knowing that we heard you. Because we did. I want people to be heard in this conversation. And that was kind of my point that, obviously, I think I said this in the beginning that, some of this was those opening salvos to have the conversation, to bring everyone to the table. Let's talk about this. Let's hear perspectives. And we're not finished hearing perspectives. We still have some public comment that needs to be made. But the report that we're looking at right now is what we've heard, right? And the perspectives that have been brought forward and the recommendations that were being made. And if we maybe restructure those, maybe we certainly can restructure those if we want to, and align them with, we could, if we want to, align them to be, these are the recommendations that were made, in favor, these, to not do taxes or do taxes, whatever, however you want to do that. But they're obviously, they're all obviously individual recommendations. Some recommendations didn't come in on time, so they were not included, right? That's how it worked. I don't think it helps us any to go forward with, with an argument and to create contention. I just don't think it helps us at all. And people may think of that differently, but it feels to me like it would be better for us to step away from this task force and go forward with a report that says, this is what we came up with. We came up with a certain number of recommendations, having looked at all of this information, and allow the legislature to make the decisions that they're going to make going forward based on the information that they have. Thoughts? Who has their hand raised? Because I can't see you.
Danelle.
Danelle.
Hey, thank you, Chair Sanchez. I think I agree with what you're saying. Do you mind hashing out a little bit of what that means? So here's this draft that we received today. What does that mean in terms of the process that you envision then moving forward until December?
I think what that means for me right now is that I want you to go through, take the time that you need to read through the draft at this point in time, correct any things that you believe are incorrect with either your how your recommendation reads or anything that that looks that needs to be dealt with in terms of the actual the drafts themselves, just the information. Whether that's a part of, a presentation that you made or anything like that, it's not all going to mean the entire presentation. Nobody's entire presentation is going to be in there. That's just the reality of a situation. So for instance, there may be some pieces in there that may be presented, incorrectly or in some way, shape or form, that type of thing. So I want any corrections to the report itself to be made. And then we will come back on the 25th. We will hear whatever public testimony is going to be made there. We will hash out any of those details, read whatever final draft maybe, or what we can get as close as we can as to a final draft that day, the 25th. And then we will hopefully have a final report closer to November. And that is what gets submitted to the legislature in the December piece. Okay, I can see Jana.
Thanks for the opportunity to speak up. I wanted to ask a few questions about the public comment process. So a question would be, how or will that public comment, those public comments be incorporated into the report? And wanted to just say that the timing of that is very difficult for our folks on the wine side, because that's our harvest time, and it's impossible to get folks to be able to step away from the intensity of harvest. So sounds like it's going to be a in person. Is there a written comment?
Doesn't have to be. It can be submitted. Yeah.
And how about how those comments will be incorporated or not into a report? Like, how will that be reflected in this process back to the legislature?
I'm not exactly sure how we're going to do that. Rosie, do you have a thought on that one? Because I honestly hadn't really rolled that through my brain as much as I had hoped to. I really had hoped that we as the committee would be able to have more opportunity to hear that as well. I had hoped that it would be open to legislators to be able to hear also. Because I understood that, what I had hoped that is that it would be available to legislators as they would, as the reports available to them.
Right. So Chair, Rosie Shekin for the record, OLCC staff. I just want to, I appreciate all the comments, and actually they're well accepted, in particular Jason's Renault's comment, because it is completely bare bone. The only thing we've communicated with folks is about their individual presentation. And so since we are still uncertain whether or not we're moving with all the recommendations from individual task force members, our voting on individual items, it's very, very bare bone, in addition to a message from the chair of the task force, sort of discussing the process as well and providing some input. So the summary, the executive summary and everything else there, I appreciate all the input, but it is purposely done that way because we didn't want to include stuff that folks did not get a chance to look at and provide some input into. For the public meeting, the whole idea there is because we are still looking at this document and providing input, looking specifically at the presentation. We will have a little bit of discussion probably at the next meeting, but at the public meeting, in the comment period, whether or not it will just be individual comments, very similar to one of the documents we received from one of the public members today. And folks can submit there and have an additional hour spare to talk about the report and input about the report. So that's the process moving forward for the 25th, so we don't have to worry about scheduling a meeting between now and then. And from our view, Director Prinz and Rob Garrett.
Right, I see that now. I actually popped that over so I could see that. I see Rob first though.
So I thank you, Chairman. I too would like clarification. So I hear you saying that at the meeting on the 25th, we're going to be taking public comment. So we're going to be getting more public comment from outside the group on the process and information about this subject. Is that correct? Yes, I see nods.
I don't know about the process necessarily, but
okay,
comment on the issue.
On this subject, okay.
Yes.
Okay, so I want to go back. I have a question of clarification. One of the things that Chair, you commented on a couple of times in the last few meetings was that that not everybody, you don't feel like everybody has been heard on this topic. Like, and what I took that to mean was that everybody on the committee hadn't. I took it to mean that not everybody on the committee had spoken, or that you didn't feel like you'd heard from everybody on the committee. But now I'm starting to think that there are people from outside that we haven't heard from. So is that what you meant by those comments, or is that what you meant by those comments? Is that why we're getting more public input?
Not necessarily. I think sometimes when we're in a larger meeting, sometimes not everybody speaks up. And to be honest, I think we actually have legislators in the committee who haven't spoken at all, which I find interesting. And Solon and I are probably the only ones who say anything, right?
Yeah.
I haven't heard from Rushkey or Knope at all. And so I was really hoping that they would say something, but they didn't.
Yeah. So can I just follow up on that?
Certainly.
I just want to reiterate something that I said earlier.
Sure.
We have when you asked us to make comments on those, I think 8 different categories, and I would like to have an opportunity. I think it would be beneficial for us to have opportunities to talk about those amongst ourselves. I think one of the things I feel like I've been taking information in from a fire hydrant, and I think that's good. And I don't know when enough is enough. I think this is, like you said, this is a very complex issue that's been going on for thousands of years. And I don't know, I'm not saying I've got all the information I need. I'm just saying that that I would like to have an opportunity for us to look at the comments that others have made and to kind of drill down into those and talk about them. For example, I haven't looked at the proposal that the alcohol industry made in depth and really had a conversation about, what it is that they are proposing or not proposing, and really been able to, I feel like we should be able to challenge each other on some of these issues, because we've had this lived experience. And I just think that would be useful at some level. I'd be interested in knowing what others think about that.
And I will tell you though, I do appreciate that very much. And I feel like, quite sadly, we have used up a lot of our time. And those are things that it would have been good and maybe in part that is a fault of mine for not maybe articulating well enough that those are some points that should have been a factor in your deliberations or your conversations, to look at all of those different things. There were actually seven points within the legislation themselves that for you to look at, and giving us more time because there was so much information to be reviewed. And what I also don't want to do is to push the industry at this point, because this is a huge part of the industry's time that's very important to them. It's their harvest time. It's not something I'm willing to take from them or attempt to shortchange them on at this point. So I cannot ask them to do more at this moment. So I'm not going to. So I apologize for that. But again, it was my hope that we could find more opportunities to just, again, help ourselves to sort of dig in a little bit more if we could possibly do that. But we have run out of time to do some of that. So, Craig, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And for the record, Prinz, OLCC. Jana, just to your comment, and then maybe we could. I'm thinking of how the legislative staff in a committee attach written public comments. When you go on the legislative website and you can see public comments. Chair, I was trying to think. I really. So Jen, I was just trying to think of your. Maybe that's a way we could do it, is have written comments. I think it's challenging to try to encapsulate verbal comments. Although I think so, maybe we could attach those. And for the chair, I just wanted to say I really appreciated. It is a struggle to put all of to try to encapsulate what we've got, and I think we have put together a good record of what we've heard, and it allows us to then amplify that the folks on this task force from every perspective have been heard. And so that resonated with me that by collecting that and submitting that as our final report, I think it amplifies everyone's perspectives. And so I would be supportive of that generally, as you laid it out, Madam Chair. And then, Jana, I was just thinking maybe, I don't know what you all think, but maybe we could include public comment if that's what the chair wants in writing in the report.
Thank you. Aaron.
Sorry, just unmuting there. Couple of quick process questions. As far as edits to the document are concerned, I'm assuming that means only our own edits to our own section, not to other sections.
That's probably the best idea. But if you see a glaring grammatical issue, certainly you're welcome to comment on that. Although I'm fairly sure that somebody will grab that one. You never know, though.
Perfect. And the second process question, if we are going to go forward with public commentary, I would strongly support written only for all commentary. Again, that would give all parties an equal opportunity to be heard there. And I'd also like to address decorum. Earlier this afternoon, we received communication from Jesse Cornett of Oregon Recovers that was disparaging to the alcohol industry. And, again, I think the commentary could have value, but again, that's an area where I think we start to see some degradation of the value of those comments.
Thank you. Solara.
Just a clarifying question. So our personal recommendations that we submitted, are those going to be part of the final report?
Yes. Okay. Aaron, did you have another question? Okay. I did see another hand there for a minute. That seems to be gone. Anyone else? Doug, Barrett, Chief Barrett. Sorry. Oh, you're on mute, sir.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, sir.
I just want to make sure maybe somebody can put a verification on my comment that I don't represent the tribe
Yes, sir.
as a whole. It's just me personally for the work that I've done in the past 25 years. So I'm not representing the tribes on a whole issue. I just want to
believe
make
that
sure
is
that that is part of my report. I don't think I've ever said that before, but I just want to make sure that I do not represent the tribe. I do not represent the tribal council. So I just got to verify that. In fact, in front of you all, that's pretty good. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe that that has been clear. But just in case. Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Chair Rosie Shakin again, just to Rob Corbett's point and the question around internal or external feedback. I do believe Todd Jeter as well is working on whether or not he's representing the viewpoint of his organization or his individual viewpoint as well. He did submit information, but we're still waiting to get some clarification from him.
Okay.
There's Todd. Thanks,
Yeah,
Todd.
this is Todd. No, I'm in my recommendation, I put personal recommendation in a couple of places and also did not reference my organization. So my recommendations are personal and don't represent Samaritan Health Plans or IHNCCO.
Thank you.
Great. So I do want to note though that if any of you do talk with folks about public testimony on the 25th, which I have done a couple of different times when folks have asked me about it. I did suggest written testimony and of course keeping it to 2 minutes, 3 minutes tops, and written, suggesting written because it does make much more sense than having that available and to be able to be submitted in writing because it's much easier that way, and it obviously also helps them keep it to a certain time period. Okay, just FYI, when people are talking, it's oftentimes harder for them to stay on track if it's not written down. Danelle.
Thank you. So Chair Sanchez, are we using the 25th for discussion amongst the group? And then we're also receiving public testimony, written testimony, or both, or?
Yes, we are going to use that. We're going to use the first hour for discussion. If we need an hour for discussion, any detailed pieces around the report, hopefully we'll have a much more refined report at that point in time. And then the latter part for any public testimony that we get. I don't anticipate that we will have a large amount of public testimony.
Okay, and there'll be a sign-up process if there is one,
Yes.
or something similar to a legislative hearing? Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Jana McCamey, Oregon Wine Growers. Just another process question. For that public testimony, is anything going to be shared with folks in advance, either, a draft of the report or the legislative remit for the committee so that those comments are, kind of focused on the task at hand? Or how is it? And I guess, is it going to be publicly noticed? Are we just sharing it out in all of our circles? Just so we kind of understand what.
Had not anticipated sharing the draft. No.
Okay, great.
I don't see any point in doing that right away. I don't think, certainly not if the legislature has not seen it yet. No. Aaron.
One last question. I assume we won't have the opportunity, but given that we're opening this up to the public to make comments, do we have any sort of fact-checking process for commentary claims that are not factual?
We don't usually do that, no, with any public testimony.
Okay, just asking.
Like it or not, people get to say whatever they want about anything. It doesn't always have to be true. That reality. Jason? Oh, there you are. Jason, if you're talking, we can't hear you.
My apologies. There's a 3-page history of alcohol history, text of alcohol history in the task force. Is this authorship from the OLCC or is this taken from another text? Anyone know
is-
the answer to that?
Rosie Shakin from the OLCC. This is part OLCC, part legislative policy research office. They've done this every year where they put documents together. We've actually have a couple of documents in our resource list citing them as well. So it's a combination of different things. It's also a bit of filler just to kind of put information there until folks take a look at it and also rework the draft. So it's really not anything that is written in stone. Again, the chair will definitely take a look at all that, and pursuant to the law requiring us to meet a particular standard for the Legislative Assembly, we'll go over that with the chair as well. So yeah, a lot of that can be taken out, but just to provide a history as well with some legislative history, but definitely from the Legislative Assembly.
I would recommend that it be an appendix at best. It's quite laudatory to the alcohol industry and doesn't accurately represent all the perspectives here in this task force.
Good point. Thank you.
Jamie?
Jamie Floyd, Ninkasi Brewing Company. Chair Sanchez, I just wanted to say thank you for acknowledging that it's harvest coming up and that for apples, hops, and grapes, and that I know that I said in the prior meeting that I wouldn't necessarily be able to make meetings, but this was a meeting that was set up ahead of time. And I just wanted to say that I will be able to attend that, especially since it's not in person. So thank you for all of that. It did help me quite a bit. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome, sir. Any other questions? Concerns? I'll see those hands up, but it looks like we're. Jason, did you have any other questions or just the same hand? Jason?
My apologies. I'll take the hand down.
Thank you, sir. Okay, folks, if we do not have any other questions or comments at this point in time, I am going to end this meeting a little bit early and give you 22 minutes of your day back. And give you 22 minutes to maybe start reading that report. Please check in with the OLCC if you have questions or concerns or edits to be made to your part of your recommendations or any other pieces that are either grammatical in nature. And we will be, of course, trying to finalize as much as possible. Chief Barrett, sir.
Just one more quick question. I don't know if I'll be able to make the 25th because I have double meetings already on that day. So unless it's earlier than 3:30, I won't be able to make it.
I think we're scheduled for what is it, 11:30?
11:30 to 1 as it stands.
Right, it stands. We're deferring schedule for the legislative because it's during legislative days.
I think we should be fine.
I'll try to cut my vacation early and get back. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Okay. All right. We then are the good of the order, folks. There's nothing. We are adjourned.